All right. Thanks everybody for coming to this Minnesota Edify onboarding session for 2021-2022 school year. Glad to have you. My name is Paul Freed. I'm the lead trainer here at JMC, and I've been walking people through many of these trainings throughout the last 3 years. Let's get started. The Minnesota Department of Education is in the process of transitioning all Minnesota public and charter schools to the Edify form of data collection for the 21-22 school year. JMC will be onboarding all remaining school districts to this new process. Today, we will walk you through the 4 phases to start submitting data to the MDE via Edify for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. Here's what's on the agenda for today. Now, before I get into it, I want to say 2 things. Number one, some of the items I'm going to go through quite quickly, and you might really right away at the beginning too, like with the calendar, and you might say, "Wow, Paul's talking fast," but that's because all of you should have your calendar done in JMC already, right? We're into October. If you don't have your calendar set up, right, there's something going on, right? So I'm going to go through that part pretty quickly and some other parts pretty quickly as well. And that's number one. And part of that number one is that once you've done the initial steps in the staging here, the transition to staging production environment are actually very similar, if not the same as the first 2 phases. So I go through those pretty quickly as well. That way you've got a resource when you go to the production environment on how to do that. Number 2 is, and I'll say this a few times, but I can't emphasize this enough, the number one way to be successful with this Minnesota Edify onboarding is just to follow the directions as we have laid out here. I've had many schools contact me and tech support and say, JMC has made this so easy for us, as easy as it can be, right? I mean, there's still challenges for sure, by putting out clear instructions for us to follow. So when you're done watching this, you'll have a video link that you can watch on YouTube. And in the description is these slides right here. Go through the process. If somebody emails tech support and says, "Hey, I'm just getting started with my initial steps, but I've got this question about the production environment," we're going to say to you, don't worry about production. Don't worry about phase 2, 3, and 4 until you're done with phase 1. Follow the steps. You will be successful. That's all you need to do. All right, and now on with the show. But wait, what if you got a question? We're standing by ready to answer your questions. Simply use the Q&A chat feature in your webinar toolbar anytime a Q&A slide is shown. So phase 1, initial steps, upload MARS fall submission. Prior to starting the Edify onboarding, schools will complete the MARS fall file submission process to ensure your MARS submission is free of state report errors. This includes uploading an error-free MARS A and B file to the Minnesota Department of Education. Now, this is step 1, and you're going to do this over and over again. What's the first step in Edify onboarding? Get an error-free MARS A and B file. So some people have said, "Hey, I'm new to MARS and Edify. I want to start with Edify." The way you start with Edify is start with MARS. If you've not watched our MARS instructional video, go out to our YouTube channel. You can go out to YouTube and you can type in JMC training. Go to YouTube here and type in JMC training, JMC TRAING. There we go. It will bring you right here to our JMC training page. Actually, it'll bring you right to this page. Click on JMC training, click on videos, or you can just search. And we've got here in early August, 08. Let's see here. Here it is. 08-19-21 Minnesota State Reporting Roundup. Our team put that together and the Minnesota Department of Ed attended. It's the one-stop shop for everything you need to know for Minnesota State Reporting. So watch that video if you haven't done that already. Then the fun fact, students who are included in MARS and future Edify submissions are denoted in JMC office with a MARS checkbox on the View Student Data screen in the General tab. Any student you'd like included in your MARS and future Edify reporting will need to have the MARS checkbox checked. So we encourage people to go through, and I actually would do this. I'd go to your View Student Data screen and just scroll through each kid and make sure that all the active kids and make sure their MARS checkbox is checked there. That's what you need to do, because if their MARS checkbox is not checked, they're not going to be included there. So that's how what's determined, the determining factor about who is sent in, who's not. Then we get to the school calendar setup. Like I said, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Setting up your calendar in JMC office for each JMC building you are reporting to MARS via Edify. So each school's term dates are correctly uploaded via the Edify process. Each JMC building must have the calendar set up, including the first day of school, last day of school, the start and end term dates for each of those buildings. So you'll go to attendance, calendar, days in JMC office. And like I said, I'm doing this quickly because you probably all have this set up already. Accurate data comes from an up-to-date school calendar. So we're going to start at the district level. And we're going to come here, start at the district level, going to attendance, calendar, days. Under attendance, calendar, days. Step 1, you'll select the first and last day of school. Step 2, click the save button. Step 3, double click any day that you'll have a no school day for that entire district. What'll happen is it'll default to having school on these days where there's nothing listed. If I double click it once, it'll say no school. That means no school for the entire day. If I double click it again, it'll say no school AM, which means there's no school in the morning. Double click it again, no school PM, which means no school in the afternoon. Once you've done that, now you're going to head to your building. It's still the same area though. Attendance calendar days, select the term dates radio button. Now you'll come here and double click the gray bar on a day that represents either the start or end of a grading term. This opens up the grading term window here. And once you've on that date, you'll checkbox that date. So I'm on my Q1 end date. You'll click save and close, and then you're good to go. It's really easy to do. Now, if you have special days are the select days that the select grade levels are not in school. For example, your senior class may not have school the last few days while all other grade levels are in session. Begin setting these non-instructional days at the building level. So you'll select the special days radio button to enter grade level non-instructional time periods. Step 2, click the grades drop-down list to set a non-instructional day for a specific grade. Step 3, double click the gray bar to make it a special day. So for my kindergarten, they're not coming to school on the 17th is what I have listed here. So again, most of you have done this already. If you've got a question on it, you sure can type it in the Q&A chat feature now. No problem whatsoever here. But I'm first going to go to my district building, attendance, calendar, days, put the first day in, put the last day in and click save. Then if I've got a day that there's no school, let's say over winter break here, there's no school on the 22nd. I just double click once. It says no school there. If I double click again, it says no school AM, double click again, no school PM, double click again. It's going to take me back to the start, but this is a no school day for the entire district. I just double click here. That's a no school day for the entire district. Now I'm going to switch to my elementary school. Let's say in the elementary school, like we said, maybe they don't have school on the 21st, or maybe some grade levels don't. Maybe your kindergartners don't go to school on the 21st of December. I can choose that. I can double click this here, and that will make it for my kindergarten has no school on December 21st. If I go back to all grades, it's going to say varies by grade, meaning everybody's off the 23rd, 24th, or 22nd, 23rd, 24th. But one of the grade levels here, we know it's kindergarten, is off at that particular time. The other thing you want to set then is your term dates. Really easy to do. We're probably coming up to the end of Q1. So come here. Let's say Q1 is here on the 29th of October, or whatever that might be. You can come here to your term dates. And I have it set the 23rd. Let's say it's not the 23rd. I'm going to come out here and I'm just going to get rid of these here just to kind of show you what's happening here. Okay. So let's say I need to put in the date as like the 24th as our last day of these terms here. I'll come in here for December 24th, double click and say, all right, this is the end of Q2 and this is the end of semester 1. And then when I do that, it will insert those calendar dates there. Really what you want to do here, and if you haven't done this already, you just want to scroll through your calendar, double click on the end of term dates here. When you're all done, this is kind of the double check, click view term dates, and any term that you grade students in should have a date listed there. If it doesn't, you need to adjust your calendar just like I showed you here. I don't have tri classes, hexes, or summer classes here, so I'm not going to expect to see any dates there. But you'll see as I go through, you'll see here, I'll see this is my Sem 2 start and my Q3 start. And then I'm going to come here and I'll find my my Q3 end and my Q4 start. How did I put those in again? I just double clicked on that date, click, and I made sure that the correct checkbox was checked there. Really easy to do. So if you have any questions about the calendar, you can type it in now. I don't think folks do, like I said, because this part has been done already by most schools there. So I'm just going to keep on rolling. So I like to spend more time on the parts that are new, such as the 2021-2022 staging key and secret. Here we go. Your school will actually enter a staging key and secret here for this new area here. So where do you do that? The MDE created the Edify security configuration tool, ESCT, to create your production, and actually any of your key and secrets here. So actually we're talking about staging here, so I apologize here, but to make your staging key and secret. This is all done on the MDE site. You get your staging key and secret from MDE. They have sent you the link already, but if you don't know where it is, you can come on this presentation and click here in the slides, and it will take you to the ESCT process here. If you have any questions about obtaining your key and secret through any of this process, contact the MDE at this email address right here. Once you've attained your staging key and secret, you're ready to enter this information in JMC office. So I want to be clear one more time. You don't get the key and secret from JMC. You get it from the Minnesota Department of Education. Do not proceed to the Edify portion of JMC until you have your key and secret for staging. Any questions about that? Again, most people don't have questions about that because that's all done on the MDE side there as well. If you do have a question, go ahead and type it in your Q&A chat and I'll get to it as we look at the, putting in your Edify settings. Now, setting up your MDE Edify connection with your school's JMC database begins with entering your Edify settings by a JMC administrator. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit because this is the JMC side of it, right? The part that would be new to most of you. So first, you'll head to File, Administrator Options, under File to Administrator Options to update your Edify settings. Step 1, click on the Edify settings link to access your school's Edify settings. Now, only a JMC administrator can do this. So you want to log in as your JMC admin or somebody who has JMC admin rights. Fun fact, this will open your Edify settings screen in a new window in your web browser. Now it's time to turn on the Edify interchanges. Enter your settings and begin sending and receiving data. Step 2, place a check mark in the Enable Edify Interchanges checkbox to turn on the Edify interchanges between JMC and MDE. Step 3, enter the client key and secret you obtained in your ESCT process in the appropriate fields to connect to your school's database to the MDE via Edify. So you put your client key here and client secret there. Step 4, select staging environment in the implementation status drop-down list to turn on your school staging environment. Step 5, click the save button to update your school's Edify settings. Very easy to do. Like I said, all you need to do is follow the directions. So we'll come here, File, Administrator Options, come down here to Edify settings, check your Enable Edify Interchanges checkbox. Enter, copy and paste your client key in, copy and paste your client secret in, change it to staging if it's not already staging, and click save. That's all there is to it. There's not really much to do here. If you've got a question, you sure can go ahead and type your question in. The hard part, again, is getting your client key and secret. And that's not that hard either, actually. I mean, the MDE has clear directions on how to do that, just like we have clear directions here. But you'll get that first, and then you'll enter it in here on the JMC side. All right, I don't see any questions, so we'll keep on rolling. Once you've updated your Edify settings in JMC Office, you're ready to begin testing the process of sending and receiving data to the MDE via Edify. Start your steps. Now that your Edify interchanges are turned on and all students are marked to be included in Edify reporting, that means their MARS checkbox is checked, let's ensure that your JMC Office data has been set up correctly to submit data to the MDE via Edify. You'll go to Minnesota Edify Start Year to begin working through the steps. So Minnesota Edify Start Year. Step 1, complete all the items on the Prep tab to ensure you've set up your JMC Office correctly. I'll look at that the live view in just a moment. Place a check mark in the appropriate checkboxes as you complete each item to track your progress. Now let's head over to the tables to begin importing school and LEA information from the MDE. So step 1, click the Update All Schools table button to download the latest MDE All Schools table with information from all Minnesota schools. Step 2, click the Update All Local Education Agencies button to download the most recent MDE LEA list. Step 3, click the Update All Post-Secondary Institutions button to download the latest MDE Post-Secondary Institution list. Step 4, click the Update All Courses button to update the MDE state course codes as well. Then you'll go to your Calendar tab in Minnesota Edify Start Year to send your district calendar to the MDE. Step 1, click the Update Calendar All Buildings button to send the district calendar information to MDE. Helpful tip, wondering if you need to do anything on the Students tab? You don't, so you can skip it for now. Now, here's the thing, and I'll talk about this in a moment. If you get an error during this part, it's because your client key and secret are not correct. And I'll show that in a little bit as well. But if you get an error at this point, it's because your client key and secret are not correct. You'll have to go back to the ESCT tool and do it again. And I'll repeat that in just a moment. But we're going to go here to Minnesota, down to Edify, Start Year. Make sure all your new students are in. Of course, I mean, it's October, so your new students are going to be in, right? Make sure your lunch status has been updated, right? You've probably have done that already because we're this year into the start of the school year. And again, make sure your calendar is correct. Now you come here and you click Tables. And this is one thing that I'll repeat in a little bit, but I'll let you know is that now with Edify, this is different than Mars. Every time you click a button to import information or export information, you will get information about what was sent and not sent. These are not all errors. right? This is just telling you this information has been submitted or information has been sent back from the Minnesota Department of Education. So one thing that people need to get used to seeing is like, you might get 500 messages saying, this is information that's been imported, but maybe only 3 errors. And here, actually, you're not going to get any errors if you have your correct client key and secret copy and pasted in. If you get any errors when you click any of these buttons again, it's because the client key secret is not correct. So you'll come and click this button here. You'll wait for it to tell you down here that that the information's been updated. Then you'll update your local education. So wait for it. Update post-secondary. Wait for it. Update all courses. Wait for it. Move to your general tab. You only do this once for the entire district, then you're good to go. Great. I see a question came in. If anybody has other questions, let me know. Let's see here. Beth says, does the error-free submission just counting statewide errors, or does it include internal errors as well? What about warnings? Great question, Beth. So what the Minnesota Department of Ed is telling me is that all errors need to be correct, even internal ones. But again, because what's going to happen is if you leave an error there, you'll see it on the Minnesota Edify as well. So what MD wants to see is they want to see an error-free A and B file, because then when you're comparing to your Edify information, you can do that. Now, I just talked to a school yesterday who said, we've got this error for actually last week, excuse me, not yesterday, it was Sunday. Last week it said, we've got an error for one special ed student, it's very unique. So they were going to leave it in there and know that they'll see that error on the Edify side as well. That's up for you and the MDE to decide, right? Because we're just the tool, right? But that would be that. Now, warnings are just warnings. So you can't get rid of all the warnings, right? Because they're warning you of things. So my understanding, again, and I don't work for the MDE, is that you can ignore some of the warnings. And there's actually a couple of errors you can ignore as well, and I'll talk about those in a little bit. But you want to have as error-free of a Mars A and B file as you possibly can, because again, you're going to be comparing them. All right, great question. So working through errors in this early stage here. Now that you've updated all Edify tables and sent your calendar to the MDE, it's time to talk errors. Did you receive a few during the start of your process, or were you error-free? Let's look at the next steps for both to keep you moving forward. If you were error-free, if you're able to complete steps 1 through 7 of the start your steps without any errors, your key and secret are successfully communicating with the MDE for Edify, and you can move on to the Minnesota Edify onboarding phase 2 staging. Yay! Did you receive errors? If you received errors in performing steps 1 through 7, please contact the MDE at Edify here, which is this email here, to ensure the key and secret you entered on the Edify settings page is correct. Excuse me, I would copy it right from the MDE site into the JMC page is what I would do. Once you've got your new key and secret, you can perform the following steps. Step 1, enter the correct key and secret obtained from the MDE. Step 2, complete the steps 1 through 7 that we just went through in this process until you're error-free. So again, if you've got questions, you can ask them. It's pretty straightforward here. And sometimes, and I don't know why this is, the key and secret, you might do all the steps correctly, and then you push the button to say, update all my courses, and you get an error. For some reason, when the MDE side, they create a key and secret, for some reason, there might be something there that's not correct for you. You might just have to go back and do it again. That's just part of the process. I wouldn't get worked up about it. I wouldn't get worked up about any of this process, to be honest. There are hundreds and hundreds of schools that have done this already. You will be successful. Just follow those steps. If you run into an error, follow the steps, put it back in, and push those buttons again. Phase 2, staging. Now, the thing to tell you about this, staging is testing out the process of sending data. You don't need to be nervous about it. You're working with your data, but it's not a live submission, meaning that nothing is being stored in MDE permanently. That's when you get to production. Staging is practice. When you get to this slide, look at it and say, oh, James C said this is practice. I don't even need to worry about it. It's practice. It's not the game time. It's just practice. The second phase of the Minnesota Edify onboarding process allows you to import, edit, and send student program and special education history to the MDE. We will remain in staging environment for this phase to ensure your Edify data is set up and flowing correctly. That's the whole process. We want to test to make sure it's flowing correctly. You're not looking for perfection here. You're testing the process so that you can become better or perfect or nail this process. After phase 2 is complete successfully, you'll begin to move to the production phase and send live data to the MDE. Meaning, you're not sending the live data, right? You're testing sending it. So if you make a mistake, that's what this phase is for. Import program history and special education history. Program history and special education history are new terms for our Minnesota schools. So right, hear that? This is a new term you may have never heard before. Program history tracks student involvement in a variety of programs. Special education history tracks a student's history of special ed participation. These records, just like Mars, are submitted for Edify reporting. So when you see this program history and special education history, they're basically just your MARS records, right? So you're not submitting a lot of new data. There are some new fields, but it's, I'm guessing here, 95% MARS information that you're submitting with a few new fields as well. So you're going to need to go to Minnesota, Programs and Special Education History, import Program and Special Education History. Now, what this does, just so you know, is it imports your MARS records and puts them into the program history and special education history, so you don't need to do it by hand. When people say, oh, James, he makes it easy, this is how we make it easy for you. We do the importation for you. But here's the thing, folks, follow my directions. Don't deviate from them, right? Just follow the directions that I laid out here, and I'll show you why that means in a moment. So step 1, enter 6/1/2021 in the begin date field to ensure program history is converted for any enrollment records that were created or edited over the summer. Now, I know somebody saying, well, Paul, we didn't have school. That's last year's database. It's not. First of all, you're in your 21-22 database. That's the first thing. The second thing is we want all your program history records to be imported. And the way we can ensure that for all Minnesota clients is put in 6/1/2021. If I told you to put 8/1/2021 in there, or I told you to put in your first day of school, some people are going to put 9/1/2021, somebody's put in 10/1/2020, whatever it is. We want to make sure that no data is left behind for your MARS record. So just trust us on this. Put 6/1/2021 in there. A few fun facts. Leave the end date field blank to ensure all these different types of records are imported from the begin date here. Okay. Second, leave all the record type checkboxes to ensure all data import. Sorry. Step 2, click the import button to convert program and special education history data to Edify for the current school year. Step 3, this is something you're going to do over and over again in Edify. So just you want to make sure you get it down. Step 3, click the print import summary button to save the import summary as a PDF, or the cancel button to bring it back to you. This is a summary of what was imported. Now, here's the important thing. This is step 4 here. You'll review the import summary to see what program and special education history records were imported and which student records need to be edited. Here's the helpful tip. It's right down here, helpful tip. The import summary report will detail how the record should be edited and guide you through the process. So here's what I said before. When something's imported, it's going to tell you everything that was imported. This is not just an error report. So it's telling me for Asha Ali had a Title I record created. Zach Brady had 2 Title I records created. Tom Freed had a Title I record created. There's no error there. You don't need to do anything. 71 program history records were created. But it then will tell you if you need additional information. So Asha also says, a SLIPA, you will need to edit the student's program history record for additional records. So we tell you what needs to be edited. This student's program history record, their SLIPA record, needs to be edited. So these are not errors. These are telling you items that need to be edited. So you're going to look at this report, and then what you're going to do for every time you have one of these import summaries is I would print it to a PDF and save it on your desktop. I would put the date 10/04/21 and call it the imports program and special education history report, and save that for later, because that you will use for any error reporting as you go through. All program and special education history records will be imported for your students. Only update records on the View Student Data screen if the import summary instructs you to. Again, nothing to update here, folks. We tell you, you will need to edit the students, and then blah, 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 blah. It will tell you what you need to update. Let's take a look at importing the program and special education history. I'm not a live database, so there's not much to show here. If you've got a question, go ahead and type it in now. So I'm going to go to Minnesota Program and Special Education History, import Program and Special Education History. What date am I going to choose? Folks, don't even think about it. Just follow what the James C. trainer is telling you. We're going to choose 6/1/2021. That way, anything that was entered in July or August or whatever will be in there as well. Make sure all of these checkboxes are checked. Okay. Check all these boxes here. I'm going to leave this one unchecked and import, and that will import all those items. Once that's done, you will get this report that looks just like this. You're going to print it, save it to a PDF on a folder on your desktop. Don't throw it away later. Save it in case you ever need to go back and look at that. Do not skip printing this to a PDF, because once you've done this, once you leave the screen, you cannot go back and see this report again. I want to say that again. Once you click Cancel Import Summary to go back to the Import Summary page, you will never see this again. So you want to make sure to print it to a PDF. All right. Why am I being so stern? Because if you follow these directions, you'll be successful. That's why we want people to follow them and be successful. All right, updating a student's program and special education history. Some program and history records and special education history records will need additional information added depending upon the latest MDE requirements. During this process, your import summary PDF will come in handy, just like we talked about. Review the summary and take note of student records that need to be edited and the next steps indicated. Head to View Student Data in JMC Office to add additional information to a program or special education history if indicated on the Import Summary Report. Step 1, find the student. Step 2, click the Program Hist tab to edit the student's program history record indicated on the Import Summary Report. Step 3, click the Edit button to edit the specified program history record. Step 4, enter the required information on the Import Summary Report is requesting using the appropriate fields and drop-down list. Step 5, click the Update button to save any changes made to the student's program history record, or cancel the button to exit. Then step 1 of the next thing is to click, it's way over here, the Special Ed History tab to edit the student's special education history record indicated on the special education, or excuse me, indicated on the Import Summary Report. Now, if you say, don't send this question and say, hey, where's my special ed history tab? We don't put that tab in there for you until you import your special education history. So if you're looking for your special ed history tab and you don't see it, no problem. It's not supposed to be there until you import your special education history. It's just like before. Step 2, click Edit button to edit the specified special education history record. Step 3, enter the required information the Import Summary Report is requesting using the appropriate fields and drop-down list. Step 4, click the Update button to save any changes made to the student's program history record, or the Cancel button to exit. So let's take a live look. You've got your report in hand. You'll come here to View Student Data. What JMC has done is we've taken that MARS record that you have here. So let's say, for example, this student right here in their MARS record was marked as homeless. Okay, doubled up. Homeless doubled up. When you come in here, you'll come to your program history record, and there'll be, I'm just going to set this up as it would could. This is what we're going to do for you. So you wouldn't even have to do any of this stuff, right? It's going to bring it in here. And you'll come in, you'll find this student, right? I find this student here. Okay, I've got a program history record that needs to be updated here. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. This kid was homeless, right? And double up. Oh, JMC created for me. They created this record for me. But it says I need to update something there. Oh, great. I'm going to edit it. It says you need to maybe put in here if they're unaccompanied youth there, or whatever it might be. And so that's what you'll do. You'll edit that information there as well. So homeless is not a great example. That's why I had the other one as well. If you have in here, I think it's no, let me see here. It is there. I can't remember which one it was, but there's a few in here that have extra fields that are not in the other ones as well. So maybe they're gifted and talented, where they're specified there. What's the providing school? That's something that it'll ask for as well once you import your school items there. But it's really easy to come in and just edit these records. That's why when people say, gosh, I think this Edify is going to be easier, it's because these records are easier to update than, I would say, a MARS record there as well. So just come in, edit, and then you're good to go. Same with the special ed history. Come in, you'll have a row that's already be created there for you. You'll come in and edit this record as is necessary right there. And that report will tell you what if there's a specific field that needs to be updated, or any new information that needs to be updated as well. So really easy to be able to manage those particular items. But this is the part that you want to own. Just so you know, if you're the MARS person at your school, this is what you're going to be doing. This year, you're going to be editing MARS records and also editing program history and special education history records. Then when MARS is phased out, you'll only be doing program history records and special education history records. Now, I do want to say one more thing, and that is this. If after you've imported a record, so we've got Isaac here. Isaac is homeless. He's doubled up. Let's say that it's April, and Isaac is still homeless, but now he is not doubled up anymore. They have some transitional housing or something like that. After any record has been imported, we don't do anything to it anymore. If you make a change on the MARS record, so I come here to MARS and I edit this, I say, okay, the student's not doubled up anymore. They're in sheltered transitional housing. You update that. Then you do need to come to the program history tab and edit that tab, or add a new record, depending on what the situation is, and change that one as well and update that. And then you're good to go there. So really, really easy to be able to do that. But once a record is imported, if you update it MARS, you need to update the program history or the special education history as well. So let's take a moment, see if anybody has questions about that. This is the skill that you're going to learn to do. If you are new to Mars, there might be some challenges, right? Because you're learning the Mars and the codes and all those things, and also learning about those Edify codes as well. But if you've done Mars before and you've actually successfully updated your error-free Mars A and B file, this process, people will say, is remarkably easy because we're telling you where you need to enter the information in. You get to those fields and you put them in. So on this one here that is homeless, when we come in here and we edit this, there actually is a new school field here. Mine doesn't populate because I'm not a real school, but it'll have different schools here to say what school are they in or whatever it might be. So it's really helpful. Or if the student's unaccompanied, check the unaccompanied youth checkbox there. So really, really easy to do. Great. We will go through the same process in phase 4, but I go through it really quickly because the phase 4 part when you're in production is just a reminder of what you've done already. So if you can do this now, this is a lot of what you'll be doing in the production phase. So if you can do it, congratulations. You're well on your way to being proficient at this Minnesota Edify transition. All right, update students by grade level. So in Mars, you would create and upload a Mars A and B file with student data to be sent to the MDE to fulfill your state reporting requirements. But now in Edify, you don't need to do that anymore once you're just Edify. So if this year, right, you need to do the Mars A and B file. But once you're solely Edify, now in Edify, you'll simply update the students by grade level to send their data to the MDE. Go to the Minnesota Edify update students by grade level to get started. So again, in Mars, you would do 2 files, an A and B file, but in Edify, you do it by grade level. So step 1, select a grade level in the grades drop-down list to submit their data. Step 2, click the Minnesota Edify update students by grade level button to send student data to the MDE for that grade level. Helpful tip, once you click the Minnesota Edify update students by grade level button, do not delete a student because their record now exists at MDE. When you watch if you watched my Mars video that we did in August, the one I referenced earlier in this video, I tell you, don't delete kids. Unless they've got a duplicate, I would not delete a student. This is why. If you submit data to Edify and then you go in and delete a kid out of JMC, you actually have to put that kid back in again and then delete them from Edify, and then you can delete them. But in essence, once you start this process, don't delete a student from your JMC database. All right, fun fact, your data will now be validated by MDE and a report will be generated displaying any errors with student data. So just like before, click the print summary button to save the summary as a PDF or cancel to go back. So again, print the summary and put down here. Today is October 4th, 10/04/21. Update students by grade level summary report. Put that in a folder on your desktop. You can refer to it later because once you leave the screen, you will not be able to see this error report again. So helpful tip though, if you run into trouble when editing student data, the summary PDF is a great tool for you and tech support to diagnose the error. So here's what people are who want to embrace Edify, right? You're the Mars person, you're in charge of Edify, embrace it and say, this is my job, I'm going to rock out on it. You'll want to go through and update all the errors that you can. You might be able to do 100% of them. I know a lot of schools that do. Maybe you got one you can't figure out. What you'll do is you'll take that PDF, you'll email it to our tech support team, highlight the one that you need help with, and they'll say, oh yeah, we've seen that before. That's a peculiar one. Maybe you should reach out to the MDE about that. They can help you with that. But you don't want to just send that on to us because you have to be the one that's going to update those errors. I had a school actually I talked to last week who said, hey, do you know somebody we can contract with to do our Edify transition? I said, absolutely not. You want to do it. You're the Mars person. You do this. You can do it on your own. This is a way that you can do it is be able to quickly start to learn how the errors are reported and how you can fix them. All right, step 4, review the summary to see what student data was uploaded and if any additional information needs to be added to a student record. Now, I will tell you, you will get, I think I'll tell you at the end of this this presentation in the appendix, we have a bunch of errors that people will see. I think it's here that they see the 400 error, meaning that you'll actually get an error for each grade level right away because it's the first time you're sending data in and there's no data there to validate against. So you'll get an error right away and then you'll just send that information again. And I'll tell you to do that when we get to that in just a moment. So review this here. Helpful tip, the summary report will detail how the record should be edited and guide you through the process. Fun fact, if your submission was successful and error-free, move on to creating and submitting new Mars A and B files. That's actually done after you've repeated the steps here. So you'd send your kindergarten in, fix all the errors, and then check it again and do that till you're error-free. Then do first grade, second grade, third grade, all those. Then once you're done submitting an error-free Edify submission, then you'll go in and create new Mars A and B files. If you have any questions on how to fix errors, please attend one of our weekly Edify onboarding Q&A sessions to check out our FAQ located in the appendix. So I'm going to go to the appendix at the end. That is the one-stop shop for errors. So once you go through this process, have that appendix printed off to a PDF or in paper. So when you run them, you can look, oh yeah, James C said I'd have this, and James C said I'd have this. That way you become comfortable with the errors that you'll be receiving. Let's take a live look at updating students by grade level. If you have any questions, now is a great time to type them in. We'll come here under Minnesota, Edify, update students by grade level, come in here. I would come to grade 1, click that, that will send that information in here. Grade 2, I would then come here, or grade 1, excuse me. Then I'd send grade 1 in. Now, if I get errors, I'd fix the errors, come back, redo grade 1 again. If I got one error left, great, fix that error, come in and do it until I'm error-free, and then move right on down the list. So very easy to do. The nice thing that people like about James C in this way is that you get those error reports right away. So you can fix them in the moment instead of waiting a week or month or 2 months later. Again, folks, just follow the directions. You're good to go. All right, if you have any questions, go ahead and chat them in, but I'm going to show you how to update a student as we go. So during the process of fixing student errors, you may find that you only need to resubmit data for a handful of students. So the reason we bring this up is because when you update a whole grade level, if a lot of schools are updating at the same time, it might take a few minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I'm not even sure, but it could take a while because the MDE has to process all this information. So if you've got, hey, I only updated 1 or 2 kids, then maybe you just want to do the 1 or 2 kids because that updating that student will be much quicker than updating a grade level. So if you've done that, in this case, there's no need to send data in for all students in all the grade levels. Instead, we'll correct the data student by student. So after you've corrected that student, you'll head to Minnesota, Edify, update student to submit data for a specific student to MDE. Step 1, enter the student's name in the dropdown, the Minnesota Edify update student dropdown list and select the student for whom you'd like to submit. Fun fact, their identifying information will be listed here. Step 2, click the Minnesota Edify update student button to begin resubmitting Edify data for the student. Helpful tip, repeat this process for an additional student that needs to have data submitted. So it just goes much more quickly. All right, once you've submitted your data now, you're error-free in Edify, then you need to create and submit a new Mars A and B file. After all of your Edify data has been uploaded to the MDE and is error-free, you'll need to create and upload a new Mars A and B files to compare your Edify submission. So the one thing I'll let people know, and if you have a question about that, you can ask us now, but every time you do something error-free in Edify, you'll again do it in Mars as well, because that's where the state's going to say, hey, now we know Edify is error-free and we know Mars is error-free. The files are exactly the same. Now you can go in and compare. Now, are you ready for production? MDE will double check your data and determine if you're ready to move to the production phase. Simply email MDE at this email here to let them know you're ready for the production environment. Now, again, I want to tell you there are errors you're going to probably receive during this process in staging. When you receive those errors, before you get nervous or even contact tech support or the MD, look at the errors we have in our appendix that I'm going to show you at the end, because most likely the error is listed there and the fix is listed there as well. All right, transition from staging to production. Now, like I said, this phase is almost exactly like phase 1. So I'm going to go a little more quickly because all of you have seen it already. Once you hear back from the MDE that your staging was successful, you're ready to start moving to the production environment of the Edify process, where you will be submitting live data to the MDE via Edify. 2021, 2022 production key and secret. Your school will replace your staging key and secret combination with a unique production key and secret combination to serve as your connection from JMC to Mars via Edify. The MDA created the ESCT tool just like before. Step 1, you'll go back to the ESCT tool. If you have any questions, email the MDE. You'll get that new. So the production key and secret is different than your staging key and secret. If you have a question about that, go ahead and type it in. Then you'll update your Edify settings. Setting up your Edify settings is in the same spot. You'll go back under File to Administrator Options and click the Edify Settings link. Now it's time to turn on the Edify interchanges, right? You'll come in here. Now this is new. You'll enter the new API and authentication URLs in the appropriate fields to connect to the MDE server. So these are actually the fields here. MDE gives them to you, but you can copy and paste them if you want from here as well. Copy your API URL in here and copy your authentication URL in here. And you might be thinking right now, I have no idea what Paul's talking about. That's okay. You don't need to. Just follow the directions. These are the API URL and authentication URL you need to move from staging to production. Step 3, enter the new production client key and client secret in the appropriate fields that you got from your ESCT process. Step 4, select production environment using the implementation status drop-down list to change the environment from staging to production. Step 5, click the save button to save your Edify settings. Let's take a live look. If you have questions, now's the time to type them in. I'll come here under File to Administrator Options, Edify settings, copy the new API URL, copy the new authentication URL, copy in the client key, copy the client secret, change from staging to production, and click save. That's all there is to it, folks, and then you're ready to keep rolling. All right. Then we go through the start your steps. Now that you've moved to the production environment, you'll do the start your steps. These should be done already under Minnesota Edify start year because you should have done them already in the previous steps. But you'll come in and you'll do each step and then place a check mark in there. Then we're gonna do the same process again. You're gonna click the button to update all schools table, update your local education agency, update all post-secondary education institutions, and update all courses. But again, remember, click the button, let it run. You'll see the report down here. Click this here, let it run. You'll see the report down here. This is not sending data to the MDE. This is bringing MDE data down to your JMC database. Then you'll go to the general tab in here and click the update calendar all buildings button to send the district calendar to MDE. Now, helpful tip, wondering what you need to do in the students tab, nothing right now, you can skip it. So is there any questions about any of those things, pushing those buttons or doing the start your steps? Now is a great time to bring them in. But again, these are all really straightforward steps because you're repeating what you've done already. Staging was practice. You nailed it. Now you're on to production. Holy cats, it's the same steps. That's right. That's how easy it is. Now working through errors. Now that you updated all Edify tables and sent your calendar to the MDE, it's time to talk errors. Did you receive a few during the start of your process or were you error-free? Let's look at steps to keep you both moving forward. If you were error-free, you're able to complete steps 1 through 7 of the start your steps without errors. Your key and secret are successfully communicating with MDE for Edify, and you can move to the Minnesota Edify onboarding phase 4 production. Yeah, pat yourself on the back. And I've said this at every training. Every training, give some people some high fives in your office because you're moving to production. They might not know what you're talking about, but you'll be proud of yourself. Did you receive errors? If you received errors performing steps 1 through 7, again, contact MDE. Get a new go to the new ESCT tool, get your new key and secret, copy and paste them in, and complete steps 1 through 7 of this process again. It happens, folks, just so you know. Sometimes you didn't copy it in correctly or they didn't generate the correct key and secret for whatever reason. It's not common, but it can happen. Just go through and do it again. It's really easy to do. All right. If you have any questions, you can keep typing them in and I'll answer them as we go. Now we're on to phase 4, the final phase, production. Now I go through the stage again pretty quickly because here's the thing to note, folks. This is the process you're going to do now to start production, and you're going to do it. You should do it at least once a month. So everything I lay out here in phase 4 production, you should be doing at least once a month. This is your guide. Watch the video, use the documentation, however you want to do it, and go through these steps. This is the process that you want to follow. Welcome to the Edify production environment. This 4th phase of the Minnesota Edify onboarding process allows you to import, edit, and send in your student program and special education history data to the MDE with your live data. During the Edify transition year, the steps laid out in this phase are to be completed every time you submit Edify data. From now until the end of the school year, This means, and that's what I said before, you'll go through phase 4 process during this initial Minnesota Edify onboarding process and repeat these steps as you continue to make changes to your student enrollment and MARS data. This includes uploading an error-free MARS A and B file. Once you've completed the MARS file submission process, you're ready to start submitting your data via Edify to MD by completing the steps in phase 4. So if you have a question, go ahead and type it in. Like I said, we're going to go through it kind of quickly because this is the process you're going to go through over and over again. Upload your calendar. The school calendar was completed in phase 1 of the Minnesota Edify reporting process. Now that you're in the production phase, let's upload the school calendar for each building in your district, but you only need to do it once for the whole district. Go to the general tab in Minnesota Edify start year to send your district calendar to the MD. Step 1, click the update calendar all buildings button to send the district calendar information to the MD. Helpful tip, update your calendar multiple times throughout the Edify onboarding process to ensure the MD has the latest information, especially if you have a snow day or a change to your calendar. All right, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in as we go. Now you'll import your program history and special education history. Like I said, trust us on the steps. use the dates we have listed. The program history and special education history are new terms for our Minnesota schools, as we talked about. The program history tracks student involvement in a variety of programs. Special education history tracks student history and special education participation. These records, just like in MARS, are submitted for Edify reporting. You'll go to Minnesota, Program and Special Education History, import Program and Special Education History. Step 1, enter 6/1/2021, the begin date field to ensure all program history is converted for any enrollment records that were created or edited over the summer. Don't question it. I know it's from last year's database, but you're only doing it for 2021-2022 school year. Put in 6/1/2021. Trust us on this one. Step 2, leave or check all the record types checked to ensure all record types will be imported. So all these should be checked here. Fun fact, the end date field doesn't need an end date. This ensures that all records are imported. Step 2, click the import button to convert program and special education history data to the Edify format for the current school year. Step 3, click the print import summary button to save the import summary as a PDF. I want you to do that. Click it, save it to a PDF no matter what it says there. Put the date on that. It's today. Today is October 4th, so I would put 10/04/21 import program and special education history report. Put that in a folder on your desktop, save it for later reference. Helpful tip, if you run into trouble when editing program and special education history records, the import summary PDF is a great tool for you in tech support to diagnose the error. Step 4, review the import summary to see what program and special education history records were imported and which student records need to be edited. Helpful tip, the import summary report will detail how the record should be edited and guide you through the process, just like you did in phase 2. All program and special education history records will be imported for your students. Only update records on the View Student Data screen if the import summary instructs you to do so. Remember, like before, it tells you everything that was imported. These ones don't need to be edited. Only the ones that have a message telling you that you need to be edited. If you have a question about that, of the import summary, go ahead and ask it. I will answer it as we go. Updating a student's program and special education history. Some program history and special education history records will need additional information added depending upon the latest MDE requirements. During this process, your import summary PDF will come in handy. Review the summary and take note of the student records that need to be edited and next steps indicated. Head to View Student Data in James the Office to add additional information to a program or special education history if indicated on the import summary report. Step 1, select the student that you want to work with. Step 2, click the Program Hist tab to edit the student's program history record. Step 3, click the Edit button to edit that record. Step 4, enter any of the required information that the import summary report is requesting using the appropriate fields and drop-down list. Step 5, click the Update button to save that particular record. Then you can click the Special Ed History tab, which is over here, to edit the student's special education history record indicated on the import summary report. Step 2, click the Edit button to edit the record. Step 3, enter any of the required information the import summary report is requesting using the appropriate fields and drop-down list. Step 4, click the Update button to save any changes made to the student's program history record, or the Cancel button to exit. So if you have any questions about that, let us know. But what I would tell people is that's the skill you want to learn. Reviewing the error reports. It's actually not an error report. It's an import report. I want to be clear about that, because even I still say error report. Review the import report. Which items need to be edited, which ones don't. Go ahead and edit them. The faster you become proficient at those tasks, the happier you're going to be. Update students by grade level. In MARS, you created and uploaded a MARS A and B file with student data to be sent to the MDE to fulfill your state reporting requirements. Now in Edify, simply update the student by grade level to send their data to the MDE. Go to Minnesota Edify Update Students by grade level to get started. Step 1, select a grade level in the grades drop-down list to submit data. Step 2, click the Minnesota Edify Update Students by Grade Level button to send student data to the MDE for that grade level. Helpful tip, once you click the Minnesota Edify Update Students by Grade Level button, do not delete a student record because their record now exists in the MDE. Fun fact, your data will now be validated by MDE and a report will be generated displaying the errors with the student data. Step 3, as always, click the Print Summary button to save the summary to a PDF or cancel to take you back to the Update by Students grade level page. So this is what I would do. Click the Print Summary, put the date, 10/4/21, or whatever date it is. What's the name of it? Update Students by Grade Level Grade 1 report. Save that to a PDF. You actually go in and you would probably actually edit those errors right away is what you would do. And then you come back. But then I can click the Cancel Summary button. That will take me back to the Update Students by Grade Level button. If you run into trouble when editing student data, the summary PDF is the great tool for you in tech support to diagnose the error. Step 4, review the summary to see what student data was uploaded and if any additional information needs to be added to a student's record. Helpful tip, the summary report will detail how the record should be edited and guide you through the process. Fun fact, if your submission was successful and error-free, move on to creating and submitting new MARS A and B files. Repeat steps 1 through 5 for all grade levels until all errors are addressed, and then actually you'll create that MARS A and B file. If you have any questions on how to fix errors, please attend one of our weekly Edify onboarding Q&A sessions or check out the FAQ. For sure, check out the Edify FAQ, which is at the end of the section, which I'll show you in a few minutes, and attend one of our Q&A sessions. I think the next one is this Wednesday, but I don't remember the time, we can look at that to make sure that you sign up for it. All right, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in, and I'll ask them as we go. Update a student. During the process of fixing errors, you may find that you only need to resubmit data for a handful of students. In this case, there's no need to send in data for all students in all grade levels. Instead, we'll correct the data student by student. Head to Minnesota Edify, update student to submit data for a specific student to MDE. Step 1, enter the student's name in the Minnesota Edify update student drop-down list and select the student you'd like to choose. Fun fact, all their identifying information is listed here. Step 2, click the Minnesota Edify update student button to begin resubmitting Edify data for the student. Repeat this process for additional students that need Edify data submitted. Then you'll create and submit new MARS A and B files. After all of your Edify data has been uploaded to the MDE and is error-free, you'll need to create and upload new MARS A and B files to compare your Edify submissions. So, like we said, you want to do that. Now, what's next? Now that you've submitted error-free data for your students, you've completed the Minnesota Edify process, right? So you came in here, I'm going back. You came in, you've got error-free Edify. Then you'll submit a new error-free MARS A and B file. And then you have submitted error-free student data for all your students. You've completed the Minnesota Edify reporting process. This is where you walk around and you give people high fives and you said, I just completed the Minnesota Edify reporting process. Nobody's gonna have any idea what you're talking about. You're gonna go home, high five your kids or your loved ones or your neighbors or the people at the pickleball court or the person that, wherever you're at. They're gonna have no idea what you're talking about. So you're gonna have to treat yourself, right? Get a beverage of choice, buy yourself some chocolate or buy yourself some hummus or get some tortilla chips or whatever it might be. Have a snack, celebrate yourself, because the person that's gonna be most excited that you're done is probably you. At JMC, we recommend going through this process at least once a month, phase 4 that we did here, to ensure your MARS data and corresponding Edify data is correct as you move towards the end of the year state reporting. Any questions about that you're going to go through this each time? If you have a question, go ahead and type it in. I first want to go through these errors here. This is under the appendix. These are really, really important. So don't log off yet if you're watching this video. This is just as important as the data because we know what errors you're going to run into right off the bat. So first, error type number 1, user. Yikes, I received a 400 error. James C says, typically these are data communication errors. And I think everybody will receive this at some point during their process. When they're first sending data in, you'll receive a 400 error. What do? Click the Minnesota Edify update students by grade level button again to resubmit your data for that grade level. So if you come in here under Minnesota Edify updates by students by grade level, and you click this and you get a 400 error, wait a minute, come back in and do it again, okay? If you get that error again, you can always wait. If you get 2 or 3 times in a row, you can wait to do it later in the day or the next morning. Maybe Minneapolis Public Schools is sending their data in or something like that as well. But I think you'll all get that 400 error at some point. You don't need to worry about it. Just to say there's some type of communication error with the MDE. It could be an MDE server, or it could be internet traffic or something like that. All right, error type number 2. I'm starting to panic. I see a 403 error for the majority of my students on both my reports. No biggie, your JMC school calendar is more likely than not, it's more likely not set up correctly. What do you want to do? Review that video. I've got it. You can click on that in the presentation slides, enter the correct term dates. That's typically what people are missing. But again, I think most people have their term dates in now. But if you don't, put your term dates in as outlined in the MARS file submission instructions and repeat steps 1 through 4 of updating students by grade level. I'm starting to panic. Oh, sorry. Oof, I'm getting this error. Student identifying information given does not match any students. This is occurring because the student is not in the MDE Edify system yet. They're probably a new student at your school. Since the new students in your district are not in your staging environment, the MDE recommends ignoring those errors for now and addressing them when you move to the production environment. So that's what I mean. You've got a brand new student in there and you get something that says student identifying information given does not match any students. The MDE says, since you're in staging, when you get that, just skip it and fix it when you get to production. You can, all right, wow, James sees that I can skip an error. You sure can, and then you'll address it when you get to production. User, I'm getting an error about invalid characters in a student's name. Most likely there's a period in the student's middle name. It's not common, but does happen, but Edify does not allow that. Go to edit student data and remove the period from the student's middle name in the middle field. User, I'm getting an error about missing or incorrect ancestry information. Most likely a field was left empty. Go to the edit student data, click the race ethnicity tab and enter any missing information for that student. Error type number 6. Oops, I reported a student to both Mars and Edify that I shouldn't have reported at all, right? The kid was in your school and last year they came, but they never came to school, but you sent them to Edify. Well, this is a simple fix that only takes a few steps to correct. First, go to Minnesota Edify delete student, find the student and delete them from the Edify portal. Then simply uncheck their Mars flag on the view student data screen. And I'll show that during the Q&A session as well. That's it. That's all there is to the Edify process. Now, you have all the steps you need to be successful, and you have the most common errors that you're going to receive. So we'll see if anybody has any other questions. I'll hang on for a minute and answer any questions, but we do believe in you. You can do this. We've had from tiny schools to large schools go through this process. They are successful. My main suggestion to you beyond following the directions is don't be afraid of the process. I know I talked to a lot of people, oh my gosh, I'm nervous to do this. Don't be nervous. You're going to do it. You're going to become proficient at it. In the long run, I think you'll see that Edify will be easier. It's an easier way to report data. You don't need to create and upload files. You can push a button and you can manage that data more efficiently. So if I was you and this was your responsibility, and I know I said this before, this will be my last comment, I would not try to get through this process as quickly as possible and do as little as possible. I would try to learn as much as possible as you go through the process. That way you'll be successful as you go. All right. I don't see any questions in there. I'll hang on for another few seconds. And if not, I'll be done. And then folks can join us for our Wednesday Minnesota Edify onboarding Q&A session. So thanks everybody for your time today. And thanks for choosing JMC.